Hey, good morning, y'all. Well, I just seen a video that Pretty Black Magic had did about the news reported gang-related arrests in Queens, New York. Let me explain something to y'all, okay? Because I know y'all don't know anything about New York City. Right now, right, we're going through a lot of political issues in New York City where everybody's down here protesting, losing their mind about whether or not Donald Trump is going to be indicted or whatever the hell they're going to do with him, right? So you have people literally outside on the streets in front of the courthouses in New York City just waiting, idly waiting for him to appear so that they could fight with the police. That's number one. Number two, the governor of this state is fighting with the New York State Assembly. She's fighting with everybody over the money, okay, for the budget that is well overdue for this state, for the education of our children, housing, all of the social services that would actually aid and help fund the residents of this state. So you have that going on. That is important because this is why you see stories like this 30-member gang unit arrest being publicized in the news. It's not that this is something where, the neighborhoods, like they say, are being extremely terrorized and, oh my goodness, no one could walk down the street. It's not like that at all. You have the politicians that are backing Trump, right, which are all Republicans, all clamoring to try to convince people of New York City, which we know better, that crime is the number one issue in our city. And if you get rid of the crime, only the Republicans could do it. And then your life will be magical and beautiful and all is fine and well, which we're not stupid in New York City. We know that's not true. We know that Republicans feel like the only way to solve everything in the world is to lock up all of the way they describe it, all of the brown and black people. Now, for me, we know black people are not black. We're brown. Everybody else is whatever color they are. So it is all this stuff that you see being pumped and being largely promoted and profiled in the news is all political. We're getting ready to come up upon elections here. We have the council people's elections coming up. Then shortly after them, it'll be like the public advocates. Then after them, it'll be certain senators, congressmen, and then eventually to the governor and then the president, right? So these are all people putting their little pawns or their players in place, players on the board in place. So when you see stuff like this, like the New York City gang unit, listen, let me tell you something. Next to the LAPD, the New York Police Department is the police department you do not want to fuck with. They will beat your ass and take questions later. They will take you out of this world and take questions later, right? So when you see news articles like the one they did today, like they're hyping it up and making it crazy to make it appear like, this is something where you see me, I live in Queens. I live in the west part of Queens. That's the southeast, right? So it's a different mix of people. Like over there where this news report was done, it's mostly African-American people with a few other people. Where I live, it's like a whole bunch of different people, like all the people from all over the world where I live. So anyway, that makes a difference. Because whenever it is a highly populated African-American area, whether it is true or not, and in most cases it's not, they try to make it seem like crime is ridiculous and it's so uncontrollable, where it's not. If you actually, there are a lot of people from New York City that do live streaming from New York City. Just find somebody that lives in Southeast Queens, right? Either from Cambria Heights, Springfield Gardens, Hollis. What else is over that way? It's so many. I can't I was born in Queensville, not born, but I was raised in Queens Village, so you can look over it, but my area is really nice. So anyway, so what do they have over there? Springfield Gardens, Cambria Heights, Hollis, Jamaica, South Jamaica, Richmond Hill, Ozone Park, South Ozone Park. It is so many, right? But here's the point I'm trying to make. If you actually Googled and you looked at that area, right, literally on the ground, scale the streets, you'll see, like I told you, the Baisley project that they're talking about is one project among residential people. So it is not like in other cities where you have like a whole bunch of projects right next to each other. They don't do that here because they want to be able to control the population if they have to. So it's always going to be like one or two buildings, the most, of a New York City owned project, meaning in New York City, the projects is called New York City Housing Authority, not the projects, right? So, and then they actually have a name. So the one project in that particular area in Southeast Queens that they were talking about was the Baisley houses, because we don't call them projects here, right? So in that Baisley houses where that little boy was killed, the 14-year-old boy, like a few years ago, if you ever been to that particular housing authority, you will see it looks beautiful on the outside. Like those people that live there, they have flowers. It's a nice place. It's one of the older buildings. A lot of them have duplex apartments. It's a lot of people live there. They take pride in where they live, but there's always those few people that want to cause problems and who have given up on life and society, and they want to live through this this, I guess, like the notoriety of the hood from those people that 50 Cent made those movies about that are now like on cable, and I think I saw them on Stars on cable or Hulu or something, that BFM and all that. All those people at 50 Cent, they come from that particular area where that story happened. But now let me tell you something. Just because that happened, if you actually Google the New York City gang activity, that unit in New York, you will see that every borough of this city has that unit in it. And every day, me being a former police officer, I could tell you, of this city, those gang unit officers, they bust their ass and they work on that shit every day of the year. The only reason, like I said, that this became a big hoopla was because of all the political climate right now. If this was 2 months ago, you notice that 2 months ago there was no story about this stuff because it wasn't important to the politicians. But now that it's election time down here, different seats are up for election, everybody's trying to ride their coattails off of the crime issue, and they're not addressing the real issue. The real issue in this city is equity and equality. People in this city need to know that I count, I matter. I need to have a job. I need to have money. I need to have housing. I need to have the same access to being able to come up in this world and level up just the way a white person does. And that is the issue in this city. But you know what? The big thing and the big difference is in this city, the people of color and the African American people here, we know that. And so when they do all this stuff on television down here, the majority of us who live here, we look at that. If we're not like whitewashed, brain dead people that believe that everything a white person says who's a Republican or otherwise is true, and we look at the reality of what we live in, we go, this is bullshit. They're wasting our time with this shit on the news because we know this shit happens every day. We live in these areas, so we see the police out here jumping out, pulling people over, grabbing them, arresting them, closing down the block when they got shit to do, they got stuff to handle. We see them doing that. We don't need the news to come and go, oh, the NYPD gang unit today took down 30 people, and this is what happened in a particular area of Queens where a whole bunch of black people live. So crime is the issue. So that when you see these politicians talking about vote for me, I'm going to handle your crime issue because I'm going to be the greatest governor ever, or I'm going to be the greatest president ever, or I'm going to be the greatest congressman, greatest senator, greatest councilman, greatest assemblyman ever. This is why you should vote for me, because this type of stuff I will make go away. Whereas us New Yorkers that actually know how the political system works in our state and in the country, we know that's a crock of shit. There's not one person ever elected, even up to the president, that could just wipe out crime just like that by themselves. Everything in this country is a process of voting, a process of government going from one issue to the next issue, to things being handled to the point where, everybody voted on it. Okay, we agree. Yes, we move forward. There's no such thing as a one-man unit in America. So when they vote and they play those games on their campaign, you should automatically know that is a very dishonest candidate, and you be wasting your time trying to vote for them, because you can't do it. And they do that all the time, which is why when people run for office, right? Because the next election we have held here is council people. So anybody running for council in New York City residents, Google, what are the duties of a councilman, whatever. What is their part or their ability or their authority in government? How does their job work? What exactly do they do? What exactly are they responsible for? How can they do this? Make sure you Google that, so that Google could show you and you could learn, think, and grow, and stop being hoodwinked by political parlor tricks and the ridiculous news people they have in their pockets to produce and promote this status quo that they have going on, where white America has everything. They have a beautiful life. They have access to making money, and everybody who's poor does not, because they withhold pertinent information from you to make you and keep you stupid. And then they laugh and they feel confident in the fact that you will never catch on. You could change that by learning to catch on, by doing the simple things I just told you in this video. Whenever somebody's running for office, Google and find out everything about that candidate's office, their power, their authority, their jobs, their duties, where they fit in the chain of governmental command and branch, and who's above them, what their office can actually do and what they can't. So that when they're sitting up there in those debates and on those commercials and they're talking about, oh, I'm going to be tough on crime, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you can sit back on your couch or wherever you're looking at it at and go, you're a fucking liar. You're a goddamn lie. Because that shit is not even within your ability to do. And you be better for it. Because that way you would force these people to be more candid and more responsible with how they truly can be. Look, this is police right now. How they truly can be when they're dealing with you, your safety, and carrying out the duties of their office honestly. So when you hear these stories, I know we all like to get on YouTube and get on here and, in my opinion, I'm sorry, play this game about calling black communities Blackistan. I've never been down with that. I think it's crazy disrespectful, because even though we have issues in our people and our communities, the last thing you want to do is to get in the mindset of thinking that everything associated with you and yours is negative. You don't want to do that, because that sets up a foundation and a basis for you to always have the wrong perspective in dealing with things that address you and those like you. That was taught to us through slavery, is reinforced by society and the anti-blackness of this world, and especially anti-black womanness. So we don't need to do that, in my opinion. What everybody does individually, that's on them. But when it comes to New York City, and I'm not picking on anybody, I just am very real about my city. I don't just come on YouTube and do a counter video because, oh, you're talking about my city. No, I want you to know the truth. Because if you ever decided to move here or come here or you're from here, I want you to know what you need to know so that we can make proper change where we live. So us people of color and us people who are here living this reality will understand that when these people come out to get office, to get public office, they not thinking about you or me. They thinking about how much money that shit is going to pay them at the end of the year. All of the pros and the cons that come with it. Y'all do yourself a favor. Look up any representative office that runs for election. Look how much goddamn money they make a year. Look how much money they're allowed to get free from the government just because they hold that office. And then you will understand why they go out of their way to run these incredible, I'm going to be the next Superman type politician if you vote for me and I get in office. I'll take care of all these nuisance black people that are getting on your nerves, that we're out here trying to convince you of the fact that they're the problem in society and why you don't have what you have, when nothing could be further from the truth. The reason you don't have what you have or need in society or whatever community you come from is because they're not doing their jobs. Instead of them worrying about lining their pockets, they're not caring about the people who elected them to go into those offices to look out for what we want to be represented. They're not doing their job. What they're doing is trying to slander groups of people. Today is black people. Tomorrow is Hispanic people when they start talking about immigration and whatever else. It's always whichever group of people is up to be thrown on the table for sacrifice to get these people what they want. Wake up, y'all. Stop falling for it. Now, I know you don't know these things about New York unless I tell you, because no one on here is ever honest about anything, but I'm brutally goddamn honest. This is a crock of shit. And if you actually Google all the times, because this is done many times in New York City, this same arrest, and it's always the same number of people. Try Googling, right? Because I know for a fact this happened 3 other times, because I remember the news stories, right? And it's often in black areas of Queens or black areas of the Bronx or black areas of Brooklyn or it's always like that. So if you Google like major gang arrests, 30 gang member arrests in New York, in Brooklyn, in Queens, in the Bronx, you're going to get hits, right? And you'll also get hits for like major, what was it? When they do major arrests for guns, when it's the time of the year near Christmas, when they do that turn in your gun for money shit, you'll see they'll do this big arrest, right? Where it's like almost up to 30 people or 30, because that seems to be their number, right? And they'll have like all these people they arrested, and they'll show you the pictures of like a whole bunch of guns and shit on the table, and oh, this is what we found, and we found all these drugs or whatever the case may be. And they do this. They do this all the time. And when you pay attention, you get to learn the game, right? So, but anyway, it's just funny to me, because if you could see all of the cases running through my mind right now, you'd laugh too. But this is not new. And like I said, our police department, they're assholes when it comes to like dealing with the everyday citizen, because they think they're above the law only because they have state indemnification, which means that they have a form of immunity, right? So that's why they bowl with it. So, but there are people that, regardless of the state indemnification, can get fucked up and go to jail for a long time, like many of them have. But I want you to know this backstory, so that whenever you see shit coming out of big cities like New York, LA, Chicago, whatever, especially around upcoming elections, you know the reason why. Okay? Now, let me tell you, in the summertime, when nobody's going to get elected for months, right? You will never see one of these type of stories. Never. And if you think I'm bullshitting, make sure you watch this summer to see. You're never going to see another huge gang arrest like this. Not at all. Not unless they see this video and they go, oh, we're going to make her an example. Make her, hold on. Yeah, you want me to move when the truck comes? Okay, I'm going to turn around.
I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, you know, it's gonna be a big issue. They won't say shit. But as soon as it comes time around September, October, November, then you're gonna see them stories start pouring out like, oh, we gotta fix this issue in New York, that issue. It's all trash. But I do appreciate, from me to anybody seeing this from NYPD, listen, I'm a former one, right? I know how hard you work. I appreciate how hard you work. You work so hard, you make it where I could come out of my house morning, noon, or night, any hour of the day or night, and walk safely to my car, get to my destination, get back to my car, and walk to my house without anyone assaulting me, doing anything to me. So I appreciate you. I don't need to see a created or a production of the shit that goes on in order for me to know that you're doing your job. So thank you to all the NYPD and especially the gang unit. I'm out. Now the rest of you know way more about New York City.